What have the past 10 days been like for you?
Probably like a lot of ups and downs, frustrations over, one possession away from continuing to play, some excitement about, how far we've come, and then, just you're still so far away from what you really want, and so you understand and how we're gonna put that together. So there's a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of rehashing stuff, and just because as good of a year as it was, and it was a really good year, it's still not what we want, what we eventually want it to be. And so
How much momentum you feel like the program has right now?
there's a lot of really good momentum right now. People are excited. You can get involved with pretty much anybody you want to get involved with. But, with that too, you gotta make sure that you pay attention to what's important to make it continue to go in the right direction. And so hopefully we will be able to recruit and have the same type of kids, just with a little more talent.
Coming off the year you did have when you had so much success with transfers in your first year system, have you been getting a lot of feedback from transfers that are out there saying, hey, we'd love to take a look at you and play for you next year?
We have. But I don't know it's necessarily because we had success with transfers as much as people have seen the environment that we have, the culture that we have, the way our guys respond to each other and to our staff, and people want to be a part of that.
Last year you were recruiting well into the summer with guys. I'm assuming you're looking forward to not doing that this year. How long do you think it'll be before you can put a full roster together of scholarship guys?
I'm not sure, but I'm not in a hurry, because I think that getting it done fast might not be the best way to get it done or allow you to get the best. Because I believe that, there's a group of guys right now in the portal that some of them are pretty good players, but I also believe there's going to be a second rung of guys in the portal, and some of them might be better fit for us, and so you don't want to rush into it and get it done.
So is that a lesson you learned from the first group, that there's supply, you just need to wade through it and be patient with what you select?
Yeah, but I felt that way before I got here. I remember, I'm sure y'all remember last year you'd ask, are you worried? And I'd say, no, I'm not worried. Because you kind of saw it over the last few years, the trend of when guys go in the portal as opposed to some people go in early because their coaches want them gone, and then some guys go in a little bit later because they're strategic in how they do it, and then you've got the guys who declare for the draft and then are going to pull their name out and go back to school, and so you have to just weigh all that.
Does the idea that there's now the window of when to enter, does that change the dynamics at all?
Well, there's a deadline to enter by, right? And there are going to be a few kids who wait for the deadline to go in.
You said Naquan's going to go through that process. Is that something that you encouraged him to do, or that he just wanted to do himself?
Yeah, no, I encourage. I want him to. We're gonna do the paperwork for the review, just see what the NBA teams say. They have this panel that they survey all the NBA teams about each particular player who puts their name in, and then you get some feedback as to what they see as projection, and if the projections are good, then maybe we go to the next step. If the projections are not what he wants, then we say, okay, let's focus in on moving forward. The whole time he'll be working out with the team and doing all that, but it's always good to get as much feedback as possible.
Where can he make the biggest leap next season? He showed a lot this season. Where can he get even better?
Well, the consistency, right? And his consistency of effort and production will come from increased strength and conditioning and preparation. How he prepares and then just like really locking in on a couple things, shooting, strength and shooting will probably be the two things that I would think you'd see the most. They're the most tangible things that you can put, your eye on. There's some fundamental things that I think, having not played organized basketball from as a young kid, that he kind of skipped over, and I think we can go back and, add some of that in and give him a better base to his game that will then help to eliminate some of the things that hindered his ability to be on the court more.
If I can go back really quickly, you're presented with the Coach of the Year award. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Is there a moment of reflection when you receive that award? What are you thinking about at that time? Can you take us back to that moment?
When I actually received the award or when they told me about it?
Okay, either one.
All right. Well, because I found out about it a week before.
Okay.
And so it was really cool because I got to celebrate with our staff. Like we all got together and, it was just a neat moment because it's a staff award. It's a team award. If Marquise and Keontae and those guys don't play as well as they played and we don't have the kind of performance that we have, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change who I am as a coach and what we did, but it's just those guys performed at a really high level and our staff did a great job of putting it together. So that was really cool to celebrate with them. Now, at the banquet, at the brunch or whatever, when they actually called my name to go up there, on the stage was Bobby Cremins and Roy Williams and Tubby Smith. And like that was a little surreal. Like those are Bobby Cremins, Tubby Smith, and Roy Williams up there, to shake my hand. And that was because I have such cool stories that I've experienced with those guys. One of the first coaching clinics I ever went to, Tubby Smith spoke at, and I was on crutches because I had fallen off of a horse. I was hog hunting, and I'd fallen off and gotten trampled. It was a hilarious story, right? And I'm a high school coach in Cleveland, Texas. I was trying to connect with the guys that I was coaching and the kids in the school. They invited me to go hog hunting. So I go hog hunting and, we're riding horses and the dogs start barking and they take off running. Well, when the dogs bark and take off running, the horses take off running too. And I'm like, holding on for dear life. And, it's just like the cartoon, the saddle turns sideways and I fall off and get trampled. And the doctor said like they miss like the bone in my leg by a couple inches, and so I'm at a coach's clinic on crutches and he saw me and like what happened and we talked and then he spent another 30 minutes just talking basketball with me and he didn't have to do this, right? This is like, the dude's a Hall of Famer and, he was just so kind and we would stop by North Carolina and Georgia Tech when we drove kids to 5-star and if Coach Williams was there or Coach Cremins was there, they would come out and meet the guys and shake their hands and spend time with them. And so they're just really cool people, really good people, but incredible coaches. And I'm on the stage with them like that. That was just like, surreal.
Is it kind of a, maybe cliche, but kind of a dream come true for you?
I never dreamt of winning Coach of the Year.
Okay.
That was never like anything that ever even crossed my mind at all. Like I dream of winning the national championship.
Mm.
But I've never thought about that. And so.
We know how special of a bond you and Marquise had, and obviously it's going to be very hard to replace it, but how do you build the players that you have now through the portal? How do you build to maybe get a player like Marquise to kind of lead the team like he did all year this year?
You hope that you can help or recruit someone with those type of leadership skills, right? I mean, you take away what he did on the floor, it's all the stuff he did off the floor that allowed the team to come together, that you hope that some of the guys, Naquan and Cam and those guys, saw those things and are willing to be the guys who step up and do those things now, the gathering the team for, to go to movies or go bowling or, just all those extra team gatherings that the coaching staff had nothing to do with. Or that you can recruit somebody who will come in and be a connector like that. Because Keith didn't know these guys but for a few months, and he was able to connect them, right? And earn their respect quickly. So, it can be done. And so you hope you can find someone who can lead like that. Whether they play like that or not is different, but hopefully, you can find a group of guys who can lead like that.
Does your coaching style, not on court per se, but like the way that you lead the guys, change at all in year two? There are some guys that already have been here and know what you want. Can you be more hands off at all?
No, you got to, every day you have to fight for your culture, man. I was with Tommy Lloyd, and he just said, "Hey, Jerome, the first year, you're locked in, you're focused, you know exactly what you want." He said, as he looks back on this second year, they were good, but he felt like he let some stuff slip a little bit. And in hindsight, he would fight harder for his culture. And yeah, it's going to be a stronger fight, more hands-on, more demanding, that we do things the right way. We don't take anything for granted.
Do you seek out information like that from time to time? The guys that have been through that?
Yeah, there's no, like, you can't replace experience. And so you try to I learned that Scott, like, after we won the national championship, Scott called every coach that had won a national championship to find out what they experienced the next year and how they could do something differently or better, like, help them. And so, yeah, I want guys who, in their second year coaching after having success the first year. We just did a deep dive into coaches who had success in their first year of coaching and what happened, and then 3 years or 4 years later get fired. Well, what was the difference between the roster the first year and the second year, the staff between the first year and the second year, and what changed, so that we can look at it and see if we can pick up anything that we can avoid or implement.
What were your conversations like with Ish before he decided to seek a transfer?
Yeah, I just asked him what the success looked like for him in this upcoming year, and he told me what he was looking for, and I told him what my plans were for the team and what I wanted to look like, and it wasn't what he wanted, and what I felt honestly that we could provide for him wasn't close or the same. And I want him to, the worst thing you can do is tell some kid you're going to do something for him, especially in their last year, and then not be able to provide or know that you can't provide that for him. And he's been so good to us and for us, and this past year, that I want him to have every opportunity to have the success in his last year that he wants to have. And he wants to play. He wants to play 25 to 30 minutes a game. And I didn't know, we want to win the last game, and I don't know how those two could fit together. And so I just was very honest with him, and he was honest with me what he wanted, and I told him, look, if you go out there and you don't feel like people are telling you the truth, right? Like, you can get what you want out there at the level you want it. Let's revisit this conversation again. But and he was like, you won't hold it against me? And I said, no, I won't hold it against you. And I said, but understand that I may have to call you and say, Ish, I've taken someone else, and we may not be able to revisit this conversation. And he understands that. And so,
is there anything weird at? I understand the nature of both graduation and the transfer portal, but is there anything weird about you're not going to have either him or Marquise around, considering how much time you guys spent?
I don't know that it's weird. I'm going to miss those guys, but I'm also gonna like stay in contact with them because I want to know. I want them to be like. The great thing about it is they can like be real honest with me and tell me what they liked, what they didn't like, what I got to make sure I always keep doing, and what I got to get rid of. And those are questions I always ask exiting seniors. I've done it. I did it as an assistant coach, and I know that they'll tell me the truth because they're not worried about whether I'm gonna run them or not play them or whatever. They'll shoot me straight.
What will you always remember about your first season?
Man, I'm gonna remember end of March, 1st of April, how cold it was here, and at some point in time going, what the heck am I doing in Kansas? I'm going to remember how like the staff, like how we kept each other going forward when it wasn't going as fast as maybe we wanted it to, or I'm gonna remember that first team meeting in June for summer school when there were only 7 guys in the locker room, which was more than 2, but only 7. And thinking at the time, man, I don't know how many wins we have sitting here. And then I'll remember the first practice when everybody was there. Desi wasn't there, but everybody but Des, and how much different it felt. And like, okay, I think we got enough because our goal was get to the tournament. And so those will stick out. There are a few games that you're gonna remember and stuff, but those are the things I think really stand out.
Observing Marquise's transformation both as a player and a person in the course of your time with him, what lessons did you learn from Marquise that make you a better coach?
To not try and force the way I see the game being played on the team or on individuals, and maybe like find out more about how, especially when you're a guy who's played as much basketball as Keith had, to find out how they see the game and why they see the game that way. What was crazy is like Keith was held to a standard that Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Pierre Jackson, host Tweety Carter, a host of other point guards I'd coached, that I only remember how great they were, right? And so now the next ones that come in are going to be held to a standard of Marquise Noel that I'm only going to remember how great he was, And so he's made it hard on the next guy that comes in, and hopefully I can be smart enough to not only remember how great he was, but remember that it took time to get to this point.
Coach, in that description, did you always find a middle ground with him? It seems that may have been the case.
You just have to ask him that question.
Okay.
I there was a point where I got, and I've shared this already, that I told him, look, I'm gonna stop comparing you to everybody. You're my arrow, and you're the guy we're gonna win with. And I just got checked on that. The comparison is the stealer of joy. I got rid of the comparison and tried to operate in the joy aspect of it, and we got better together.
If there's more of a scoring load or production load on Cam Carter next season, what could he do better to help out the team?
Man, more consistent shooting. Work on decision making, like just become more of a student of the game and not just play by feel. That's going to help him. Just having played a whole year with all those minutes and being in the environments he's been in, and he's going to have a lot to draw from that's going to help him moving forward. He's got to become more vocal on both ends of the floor and every day at practice if he wants to take that next step.
Another former coworker of yours hired Texas Tech. Just curious your thoughts on that.
Grant, I don't know that I've talked about Grant much to anybody, but I always say Grant saved my life. You know, there was a period there where I had gotten like out of shape, like terrible, right? Like I was probably pushing 200 pounds and like just locked in on working and stuff. And I was like, man, I got to get back in shape. And he was willing to work out with me, right? And I really wasn't a morning person at all. And the guy who was gonna do the workouts for me said, Coach, if I'm gonna work you out, we got to work out at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Now, if you know me, that's not good. But I wanted to get back in shape, and Grant was willing to do so. Every morning at 5 o'clock, we went and did these workouts. And I mean, I probably got in some of the best shape of my life, but I rolled out of bed every morning because I knew Grant was going to be there, right? And I didn't want to let him down. And so we were there, and I mean, it was for over a year. We worked out together and got in great shape and just spent all that time together. And he's just a terrific human being, man. And when he's all in, he is all in. And everything with him is about winning, right? Like, you know, he'd always say, Tang, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? How are we going to win? You know, like he's all about winning, and his team is going to know that. They're going to, and he knows what he wants them to look like. When the year starts, he knows what he wants it to look at the end, and he's always working towards that. And that's a special trait to have, that he can look at his team early and say, this is what we're going to play like at the end, and work towards that. Coach Mulkey is like that. Coach Mulkey starts the year, but she knows what she wants it to look like at the end. And they're Texas Tech home run hire as a coach, and just an even better person.
Coach, you talked about how when you were at Baylor and you learned from the seniors and you know what to get better at. What was the lesson that you learned about this year? Or maybe the lesson that you learned from the team, or just your first year of being a head coach?
I hadn't really taken the time to sit back on that one yet or draw that information from the seniors. Right now, we're just trying to get organized for moving forward and recruiting and stuff. We're going to take some time and do that. But I know what I'm going to continue, and that is we're going to enjoy, being here and enjoy all the small successes, and we're going to celebrate it. And, I know some of the things that I did this year may have put some people off in the dancing after the game with the students. I can see how an opposing coach may not like that, but man, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna make sure our staff enjoys it. We're not gonna take for granted how winning, because we know how hard it is, and we don't know how long this thing lasts. So,
as far as the guys that are returning, and you feel like those plans and your plans for them have aligned, or are there any other plans that are kind of similar to Ish, where things aren't?
No, I feel pretty good about most of them. I mean, we're gonna have conversations with all the guys. Ish just needed to have a conversation earlier than those other guys, but we'll have conversations with them and tell them what we see, the plan for them, and we all have plans, right? But like playing time is always determined by players, not coaches. And so our job, as our staff's job and my job, is to bring in guys who are going to put the returners on the bench, and their job is to make sure that doesn't happen, because they have a head start. And so if they're okay with that and the competition of it, right, then we're going to be fine. And for some guys, they may not be okay with it, and we're going to be fine also, because You know, we want competitive dudes that you know that they don't mind, you know, scrapping and clawing every moment to get what they want, because that's the only way you can win the last game.
Dorian played 6 games. Is there plans on applying for a hardship redshirt?
Yeah, we think we have there's a lot of other things that I can't talk about into this whole thing, and but we're gonna see what, you know, the NCAA says about some of that.
2 questions. First one is getting back from New York and seeing all the fans in that terminal.
Wow.
What was that moment like for you?
Very emotional and moving. You know, I've come back from 2 other Elite Eights at Baylor, and no knock on, this is not a knock on it, but like I've never seen that kind of reception for not winning. And so for the fans, some of them drove hours to come show their appreciation for what the guys did this year. It just makes you want to work even harder to get them that parade, right? Like we're going to have a parade through Manhattan. It's going to happen. And the passion of our fan base, it like fuels our staff. And I know it fuels our players to want to, you know, just do a little bit more.
The second question is, watching you sign every autograph and take every selfie for 48 minutes after you arrive, why was that so important to you?
You know, I know that our fans, they make a huge sacrifice to buy season tickets or drive to the airport, you know, just all of those things. And I mean, I get paid a lot of money to do something that I love. And, you know, it's not that I like basketball. I'm passionate about it, but I love people. And I know that's my ministry, is to touch the lives of people. And if I can take a few minutes and take some pictures and sign some autographs and it makes somebody's day better, and I mean, it's just, I don't know why somebody wouldn't do it, but, you know.
Can you talk just a little bit about what you think makes Keontae and maybe even Marquise potential good NBA players?
Yeah, well, I'll start with Keontae. He is he has multiple positions that he can defend, and that makes him valuable, because the NBA, you have 15 on a roster. I think they're moving it to 17 now with the new collective bargaining agreement, that they'll be able to have 2 more two-way players. But so when NBA GMs are drafting or putting people on the team, they want guys who can play multiple positions, because then you go from having 15 on the roster. If a guy can play 3 positions, now you have 17 on the roster, right? Position-wise. And because of his strength, his length, his athletic ability, he could be a 3-position guy in the NBA. Okay. Then offensively, he can make shots. Like, it's not, the ball goes in the hole easy for him. And that doesn't happen for a lot of people, right? And so those are just, like, he's got things that will translate to the NBA game. And so, you know, I could see him not just making the team, but playing meaningful minutes because of his physical ability, his feel, and his gifts offensively and defensively, and just his competitiveness, right? Like, I know he smiles a lot and he's quiet, but he's got this, like, this drive inside of him that he just, like, he wants to destroy that dude in front of him, you know. So, and there's so much more space on the NBA court that he will be fine. Keith, you know, his ability to shoot with range is something that separates him, but is also his ability to play in pick and roll and he did a much better job. Like he really grew this year on making ball screen reads in pick and roll, and he can pick you up full court and really make life miserable for you, very much like Jose Alvarado. Smaller, but the same kind of tenacity on the ball, and that when you don't need a hedge in a ball screen action, if a guard, a Patrick Beverly, guards like that don't need a hedge, it really helps an NBA defense, because I mean defenses are in the NBA are really at the will of the offense because those guys are so skilled. But when you don't have to hedge a ball screen, put two on the ball, that really helps your defense. And so those are some things that are going to give them an opportunity.
One of the football coaches said the other day about Deuce Vaughn. He said you don't replace Deuce Vaughn. Like you have people step up and hopefully fill the shoes, but you don't replace him. Is that kind of how you see it with Marquise? Like you got to find impact players, but you're not going to find maybe another Marquise somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, as much as what he did on the court, I was trying to tell you about what he did off the court to bring the team together. That was as important. All the different text messages that he would send, after wins or losses or just constantly keeping the guys locked in and moving forward. So no, you can't replace that. And then the tangible stuff on the floor. We had two guys on the team this year that could give you 30 points on any night, right? They couldn't do it every night, but on any night they could do that. Hopefully next year we're going to have 4 to 5 that on any night can give you 20, right? Just more weapons out there so that we become harder to guard and they can't load up. Or if one guy, the FAU game, Keontae's on the bench, it just got harder for us. When he's on the floor, they're both out there. So, but if you had 4 guys that you could put out there, or 3 at any one time, it just makes you harder to guard.
I know a lot's been made about the lob dunk against Michigan State, but you guys ran that play successfully like a dozen times this season. I just, in general, why could you keep going back to that well and nobody could stop it, you think?
Well, you can't do it like every game or against every team. It's usually how certain teams guard when the ball is in a certain part of the floor. And so it's just something that you make a read. But I'm just, and that was just Keith and Keontae, 2 players making the play. That's all that was. They locked eyes with each other. We knew we could pick on certain things on Michigan State because of how they guard. And every defense has like holes, right? And it's because it's impossible to take everything away. With good teams, and so we knew there were certain things we could pick on, and at that point in time, it was one of those things we could pick on.
Did you start out that game? Did you call the lob at the start of that game? Because that was the first scoring play too.
Yeah, that was called.
That one,
yeah,
okay.
that was a
secret
call.
on that one.
Yeah, that was a call. But we had done. I think we ran that at least 3 other times. I don't know. We got dunks. I think that might have been the same play we opened the game against Baylor with too, at Baylor.
I think so.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone, like different coaches have different way they guard certain actions, and you just try to figure out how you can pick on the way whether they switch or don't switch, those type of things. So that's why it doesn't always work. You can't. It's like in football. You got 3 down linemen or 4 down linemen. You run different things based on how they do that. So
Now that the season's over, the $1 million question is the argument with Marquise. That wasn't planned at all.
I'm gonna go with Marquise's answer that we can't tell you, because if we do, then we're not gonna be able to run it again.
With that being the shining moment after the national championship, was that kind of cool to be on that?
It was cool to be on one shining moment at any time, right? Like I like the one shining moment where you're the one holding the trophy at the end.
What's kind of the biggest improvement that you want to see out of David next year? What do you hope he gets better at?
Well, good thing is we're gonna have him for a whole summer, right? Last year he missed a large portion of it when he went home and had the visa issues and stuff. So that's going to help with his strength and his weight gain. And then just by him working the way we want him to work, hopefully it builds his confidence, and so that it doesn't matter like whether his shot is falling or things are going well. Like his confidence will come from the work he's put in, not on the results. And that's like, it's more of a mindset than anything.
Do you know when you're gonna get the three freshmen on campus?
They'll be here in June. Yeah, summer school.